Every guest hides something. Dolly Bantry sat at her writing table. Stacks of invitations lay open. She checked each name twice. Her lips tightened with worry. Colonel Bantry entered. He asked nothing. He only saw the lists. Dolly said softly, "It must go well." He nodded once and left. The butler brought in tea. Dolly signed another card. Her hand shook. She pressed the pen down hard. The doorbell rang. Laura the butler returned. "Miss Marple has arrived." Dolly smiled faintly. "Show her in, please." Miss Marple entered with quiet steps. She carried her small bag. She looked at Dolly's face first. She noted the tension there. "Busy morning, Dolly?" she asked gently. Dolly gave a short laugh. "This ball must succeed. No mistakes." Marple nodded. Her eyes moved to the table. Names, tickets, seating notes, details piled like small weights. From the hallway came sharp voices. Two people argued. The sound drew closer. It was Aubrey Trent and Lily Hartley. They entered still speaking over each other. Aubrey wore his confident smile. Lily carried sketches under her arm. Their words clashed like stones. "You cannot change the lighting," Aubrey snapped. "It ruins the rhythm." Lily shot back. "It must fit the theme." "Your music is not the only concern." Dolly raised her hand. "Enough, both of you." Her tone was crisp. "This is my house. This is my charity. You will both work together." Aubrey bowed slightly. His silver hair caught the light. He said nothing more. Lily folded her arms. Her eyes held fire. She gave a short nod. Miss Marple watched in silence. She saw the strain between them. Not simple work trouble. Deeper. Older. Dolly tried to ease the moment. "Leave the sketches here, Lily. I shall review them later. Aubrey, see to your musicians." Both left with stiff shoulders. The air felt heavy. Dolly sighed. Always some quarrel before a ball. Miss Marple leaned closer. Sometimes quarrels show more than they hide. Dolly looked uneasy. She did not answer. She turned back to her desk. Papers slid aside as she reached for her pen. Something unusual caught her eye. A folded slip rested between two cards. It was not in her handwriting. She pulled it free. Her breath caught. The words were scrawled in dark ink. "Tonight is the perfect chance." Dolly stared at it. Miss Marple leaned forward. Her voice was calm but sharp. "Dolly, who placed this here?" Dolly shook her head. Her hand trembled. She pressed the note flat on the desk. Her lips moved, but no words came. Miss Marple's eyes narrowed. A new shadow had entered the house. The ball had not even begun. The torn note lay between them, its warning plain. Tonight is the perfect chance. Masks of civility crack in small details. The first carriages arrived. Guests entered with polite smiles. Gloves removed, coats handed to Laura. Colonel Bantry moved. Forward. He greeted each guest, his voice steady, his handshake firm. Reverend Clement stepped inside, his face calm, almost solemn. Colonel Bantry welcomed him warmly. "Good of you to join us." The Reverend reached for his pocket. A small slip of paper fell. It landed near Miss Marple's shoe. She bent down without a word. Her eyes caught the handwriting. It was a prayer note. But the time written was strange. Not evening service, not morning prayer. Instead, midnight. She folded it quietly. She did not return it. Her face gave nothing away. The Reverend smiled faintly. "Good to see you, Miss Marple." She nodded, calm. Her fingers kept the slip hidden. Aubrey Trent's voice carried from the stage. He tested his violin, strings sharp, notes harsh. He called to his musicians, again, but slower. Lily Hartley stood at the side, her arms crossed, her eyes fixed on Aubrey, cold, unblinking. She spoke low to Mabel Finch. "Too loud for a charity event?" Mabel nodded nervously. She adjusted her ledger, avoiding both. Dolly walked between them all. She smiled at guests. She checked decorations, her voice brisk, controlled. Inside, her mind pressed with worry. Miss Marple moved closer to Lily. She asked lightly, "All well, my dear?" Lily gave a stiff smile. Nothing is ever well with him around. Her eyes cut toward Aubrey. Aubrey bowed to the crowd. He caught Marple's gaze. His smile looked polished, but his eyes restless. He raised his bow again. Music filled the hall. Guests clapped lightly. Miss Marple turned her head. She watched Dolly's tight hands on her fan. She noted Mabel's shaking pen. She saw Laura moving too quickly with coats. Colonel Bantry stood tall near the door. He greeted Lady Peaton. Her eyes darted nervously. Her hands tugged at her shawl. Marple slipped the folded prayer note into her bag. Her face calm, her mind turning. "Midnight. Why write midnight?" Laura passed close by her, her voice low, almost trembling. "Miss," she whispered, "someone has already unlocked the cloakroom." Marple's eyes lifted slowly, her lips pressed tight. She gave no reply. But her silence spoke of unease. Laura's whisper lingered in her ear. "Someone has already unlocked the cloakroom." Tension plays louder than the instruments. The corridor was narrow. Aubrey Trent blocked Lily's way. His face carried its usual smile. But his voice was sharp. "You will not change the stage," he hissed. Lily held her ground. "You ruined my work before. I will not let you again." Aubrey leaned closer. "Your work means nothing without my music." Lily's eyes hardened. "You destroyed more than my work. You destroyed my trust." Aubrey laughed low. "Still blaming me? It was years ago. You should have learned silence." She stepped back. Her voice cut like glass. "You think I will stay silent? Not this time." Straightened his tie. His tone dropped colder. "Interfere, and you'll regret it." Her hands clenched on her sketch papers. She whispered, "Then watch me." She turned and walked away. Aubrey remained still for a moment. His eyes followed her. Then he smirked faintly. He muttered, "Foolish woman." From the ballroom came music notes, violins tuning, drums tapping. Guests laughed loudly, unaware. The clash in the corridor remained hidden. Miss Marple passed by slowly. She saw Lily's flushed face. She saw Aubrey's stiff shoulders. She did not stop them. She only listened. Every quarrel left an echo. Lily brushed past Dolly. Dolly frowned. What happened now? Lily said nothing. She only muttered, "Ask him." Her footsteps echoed down the stairs. Dolly turned to Aubrey. "Must you quarrel in my house?" Aubrey smiled again. "My dear Mrs. Bantry, it was nothing." But Dolly was not convinced. Her lips tightened. Colonel Bantry stepped into the hall. He glanced from one to the other. He asked no question. He simply guided Dolly away. His silence steadied her nerves. Reverend Clement passed near. He greeted Aubrey politely. Aubrey bowed in return. But Clement's eyes lingered on him. Suspicion flickered unspoken. Miss Marple adjusted her bag. She recalled the slip marked midnight. She glanced at Aubrey. Her mind placed one thread beside another. Mabel Finch entered the ballroom with ledgers. She called out for Dolly. Her voice carried strain. Numbers never balanced well under stress. Lily returned from the lower hall. Her sketches scattered slightly. Her face pale but defiant. She kept distance from Aubrey. The musician struck a louder note. Aubrey raised his hand. "Begin properly now," he ordered. The music steadied. Guests clapped lightly. The ballroom filled with cheer, but the corridor kept its shadow. Bitter words had already marked the night. Behind the curtain near the balcony, Crispin Yo worked quietly. He adjusted his lantern equipment. His fingers moved fast. He checked the slide box. He positioned the light carefully. Against Dolly's strict orders. Crispin fixed his lantern in place, ignoring the warning, preparing for what was to come. Snow promised, scandal delivered. The waltz began. Chairs scraped back. Couples moved to the floor. The hall filled with rhythm. Dolly Bantry stood near the dais, her hands clasped tight. She watched the dancers. She forced a smile. Aubrey lifted his baton. The strings swelled. The beat grew steady. Guests clapped with delight. Then the light changed. A faint glow spread above. Eyes lifted. Gasps followed. The ceiling showed an image, not snowflakes, not stars. A woman's face appeared. Lady Peaton, her gown low, her pose compromising, her eyes fixed ahead. Silence cracked into whispers. A woman cried out. Men muttered in shock. Fans snapped shut. Dolly froze. Her face drained of color. Her knees buckled slightly. Colonel Bantry caught her arm. She whispered, "Not again. Not here." Lady Peaton pressed a hand to her throat. Her lips trembled. She tried to speak. No sound came. Miss Marple raised her head. Her eyes narrowed. She saw the brooch on the wrong shoulder. The image was reversed. Her thought remained silent. Mabel Finch dropped her pen. She bent quickly. She dared not look up. The raffle table shook. Lily Hartley's lips curled faintly. Her eyes gleamed. She glanced toward the balcony. No one noticed but Marple. Aubrey Trent did not flinch. He signaled the band to continue. The violins rose louder. The music pressed over the whispers. Colonel Bantry spoke low to Dolly. "Stay calm. We will manage this." She nodded weakly. Reverend Clement folded his hands. His brow furrowed. His wife clutched his sleeve. The vicar said nothing. Laura rushed forward. "Mrs. Bantry, shall I—" Dolly cut her off. "No scenes. Not now." Guests looked from ceiling to stage. Every glance carried suspicion. Every murmur carried doubt. Miss Marple's gaze fixed higher. She followed the faint beam. It came from the balcony. The lantern glowed. Her eyes searched for Crispin. His chair was empty. The balcony curtains stirred slightly. But he was gone. Colonel Bantry looked upward, too. He clenched his fists. He muttered, "Who dares this?" Dolly closed her eyes. Her voice broke. "They wanted shame, and they chose me." Marple placed a hand on her arm, her tone calm. "Not shame, Dolly. Only a mask. Masks slip." Dolly gave a small nod, her breath uneven, her pride wounded, but her will unbroken. The music swelled again. The projection flickered out. Only shadows remained above. Guests still whispered. Lady Peaton left the floor in silence. Her head bent low. The hall buzzed with doubt. Crispin had vanished from the balcony, leaving only the faint smell of burning oil and a trail of suspicion. While eyes looked up, hands reached down. Mabel Finch clutched her ledger, her face pale, her lips pressed thin. She whispered to Dolly, "The box is gone." Dolly turned sharply. "What do you mean?" Mabel's hand shook. "The raffle money. It was here. Now it is not." Dolly's breath caught. Her eyes darted around. "Not tonight, Mabel. Not this night." Mabel opened the ledger wide. Coins recorded, notes recorded, but the cash box empty. Colonel Bantry called for Inspector Slack. Slack strode forward, his jaw set. "Show me." They reached the cloakroom. The lock was clean. No marks, no scratches. Slack muttered, "No force." It was opened. Laura stood by the coats, her face rigid. She whispered, "I saw no one." Slack barked, "You missed them." Miss Marple bent down. Her eyes moved to the table. She touched the wood with her finger. White powder smeared faintly. She rubbed it. "Chalk," she murmured. Slack frowned. "Chalk?" Marple nodded slowly. "Yes, chalk dust." Fresh, she straightened and looked around. Her eyes rested on Lily Hartley's bag, sketches, ribbons, pins, and chalk sticks. Lily stepped forward at once, her voice sharp. "You cannot suggest Dolly raised her hand. Silence. The guests pressed closer. Whispers grew. Faces turned to Lily. Her cheeks flushed red. Her arms stiffened. Marple kept her voice calm. No suggestion, only an observation. Chalk was here. Chalk is yours. Lily's eyes flashed. She spat back. Decorators use chalk. It proves nothing. Slack leaned near her. Or it proves too much. Lily glared. She said no more. Mabel wrung her hands. Her voice trembled. Years of savings lost, all gone in a moment. Dolly closed her eyes. Her pride bled deeper. Money raised for charity, now stolen, her name bound to shame. Colonel Bantry placed a hand on her shoulder. We will recover it. But his eyes did not hold certainty. Miss Marple's gaze swept the floor. She saw faint scuff marks, not from heavy boots, from something small, a careful step. She leaned closer to the ground. Her eyes caught a shape near the cloakroom wall. Leather, brown, curled slightly at the edge. She reached out and lifted it. The guests leaned in. Inspector Slack narrowed his eyes. Colonel Bantry frowned. It was a glove. One glove, not a pair. A single brown glove. Dolly gasped. "Whose is that?" No one answered. The silence grew heavy. Eyes shifted. Accusations formed quietly in every mind. Marple held it steady, her face unreadable. But her thoughts moved fast. She whispered low. This was no accident. The single brown glove lay in Miss Marple's hand, its owner unknown, its meaning dangerous. The missing man is found at last. Laura pushed the conservatory door. The air felt close. She stepped inside with caution. Her eyes swept the palms. She gasped sharply. Her hand flew to her mouth. "Help! In here!" Guests rushed forward. Colonel Bantry strode fast, Inspector Slack close behind. Miss Marple followed steady. There, among the plants, lay Crispin Yo. His head tilted back. A ribbon fixed tight around his throat. The white sheen caught the light. Dolly stood frozen, her voice cracked. "Not in my house. Not murder." Slack pushed the guests back. "Stand clear. No one touches anything." Dr. Haydock knelt by the body. His hands moved carefully. He studied the knot. Left side pulled hard. "This was tied by a left hand," he said. Slack raised his brow. "Certain?" Haydock nodded firmly. "No doubt." Colonel Bantry's eyes hardened. "Then find which of them favors it." Marple leaned closer. She did not touch. She studied the ribbon's texture, her voice low, almost to herself. Shellac, smoothed and stiffened. Slack looked at her. "Meaning?" Marple did not answer. Her eyes remained on the bowl. "Not." Haydock opened the dead man's coat. A crumpled paper slid out. Edges burned. Letters blackened. Slack snatched it up. He tried to read the fragments. 50 pounds. By dawn. He swore under his breath. Blackmail. Mabel Finch covered her mouth. She whispered, "So that's what he was." Lady Peaton faintly shook her head. She turned away. Her shame grew heavier with every moment. Lily Hartley spoke sharp. He was vile, a scandal maker. He deserved ruin. But her voice trembled. Her eyes would not meet Marple's. Aubrey Trent stood near the door. He adjusted his cuff slowly, too calm, too composed. Slack barked, "Everyone accounted for?" Laura nodded. "Yes, sir. All inside, but him." Colonel Bantry said low to Dolly, "This will spread by morning." Dolly closed her eyes. Her pride cracked again. Her charity turned into disgrace. Marple kept silent. She watched faces, not words. She saw Lily's fists closed too tight. She saw Aubrey's steady smile. She saw Mabel's trembling hands. Slack stepped forward. "This is no theft now. This is murder, and someone in this house will hang for it." The guests fell quiet. No one dared to speak. The palms cast sharp shadows. But the truth lay among the details. Haydock leaned down once more. He closed Crispin-Yo's coat. Something small fell out. It clicked against the floor. All eyes turned. Marple bent to pick it up. Her fingers closed around it. Cold glass. A shard of a photographic slide. The shard of broken slide lay in Miss Marple's hand, a silent witness to the scandal and the murder. Pairs tell lies. Singles tell truth. Inspector Slack stood in the conservatory. He barked orders at constables. "Search every corner. Bring me what you find." Miss Marple stayed near the palms. Her eyes moved carefully. Details never hid for long. A young constable approached. "Ma'am, found this." He held up a small glove. A woman's glove, left hand only. Marple took it gently. She turned it in her fingers. No lace torn, but chalk smeared faintly near the wrist. Slack frowned. "One glove means nothing. Dropped in panic, that's all." Marple did not answer. She slipped it into her bag. Another constable called out, "Sir, glove here as well." This one larger, brown leather, a man's glove, right hand only. Slack growled. More clutter. People drop things. He tossed it on the table. Marple picked it up. The leather stiff, smell faint of rosin. She rubbed her thumb across. Powder clung faintly. Her mind noted the pattern, left, then right, chalk, then rosin. Moments later, Mabel Finch entered. She held out another glove. "Found near the raffle desk." A second woman's glove, also left hand. Clean but strange in timing. Slack groaned. "Another? Are we running a market?" He snatched it away. "Worthless scraps." Colonel Bantry stepped in, his brow furrowed. He asked quietly, "3 gloves? All separate?" Slack muttered, "Yes," and each useless. Then Laura hurried forward. In her hand lay the 4th. She whispered, "I found it near the side corridor." It was a man's glove, right hand again. Now 4, 2 women's left, 2 men's right. Miss Marple lined them on the table. The room fell quiet. Even Slack leaned closer, despite himself. She pointed softly. This one marked with chalk, this one with rosin dust, these 2 untouched. Slack waved his hand. Coincidence, dropped by careless guests, nothing more. Marple shook her head, her voice calm. Not coincidence, not carelessness, each left alone to suggest something. Slack scowled. "You see patterns where none exist." Marple's eyes stayed firm. "Patterns never lie. People do." Dolly clutched her shawl tighter, her voice weak. "How many more humiliations tonight?" Colonel Bantry pressed her hand. He said nothing. Lady Peaton whispered to her maid. Fear etched in her face. She would not meet the other's eyes. Marple touched the chalk-marked glove again. She thought of Lily's bag. She thought of Aubrey's bow hand dusted with rosin. Details spoke louder than words. Slack sighed. "Until we catch someone with a pair, these scraps mean nothing in court." Marple glanced at him. Her lips curved faintly. Her tone steady, almost solemn. Number someone staged this trail, and staging always means intent. Her whisper hung in the tense room. "No. Someone staged this trail. Allies in theft, enemies in trust." Lily Hartley cornered Aubrey near the music stand, her voice sharp. "You ruined my business. You left me to fall." Aubrey adjusted his cuff. His smile was cool. "Your business was weak. I merely removed the illusion." Lily stepped closer. Her hands trembled. "You spread the lies. You whispered to creditors. You turned them against me." Aubrey leaned back slightly. He tapped his bow against the stand. "You blame me for your own failings. How convenient." Her breath caught. Her eyes burned with fury. "You cost me everything. My workshop, my clients." My future Aubrey lowered his voice. "And yet here you are, still working under my shadow, still taking my orders." She slapped her sketches against the table. "You won't order me again. Not after tonight. His smile widened. Threats from you? You can't even pay your debts. Half the village knows. Her face flushed red. Her nails dug into the papers. I'll repay them, but I'll never repay you. Aubrey bent closer, his words low, biting. You could never repay me. Not in coin, not in loyalty, not in silence. She gasped softly. Her lips parted. You dare speak of loyalty after what you did? He tilted his head. I did what was necessary, for myself, for profit. Lily's eyes narrowed. Her voice shook with rage. You betrayed me once. Betray me again, and I'll drag you down with me. Miss Marple stood in the shadow of the arch. She heard every word. She noted the bitterness, not new anger, old wounds, deep ones. Dolly passed by, unaware. She called out for Laura, her voice light, forced calm. The quarrel remained hidden behind her. Aubrey turned his back to Lily. He straightened his bow tie. He reached for a glass left on the side table. Wine swirled inside. He lifted it carelessly. But before it touched his lips, Inspector Slack stepped forward. He caught the stem. His nose bent close. Slack's eyes narrowed, his tone harsh. What's this smell? Aubrey froze. The smile slipped from his face. He said nothing. His hand hovered mid-air. Lily's eyes widened. She stepped back quickly, her breath uneven, her guilt or her fear unclear. Guests nearby turned to watch. A hush spread, no laughter now. Only questions rising. Miss Marple stayed silent. Her eyes moved from Lily to Aubrey. Her mind pieced together the threads, debt, betrayal, poison. One secret covering another. Dolly's hand pressed her chest. Her voice broke. Not murder again. Not in my house. Marple touched her arm gently, her tone steady, quiet. Fear not, Dolly. Truth will come. It always does. Aubrey's hand hung in midair, his glass caught by Slack, the poison smell sharp in the air. One murder was not enough. Inspector Slack held the glass. He sniffed again. His face darkened. Something's wrong here. Dr. Haydock stepped forward. Let me test it. He dipped a strip inside. The color shifted pale. He frowned hard. This drink is poisoned, Haydock said, his voice flat, his eyes steady. Slack slammed the table. Another attempt, right here in this hall. Aubrey Trent adjusted his tie. His smile faltered. His hand shook slightly. He forced calm into his tone. Surely some mistake. Wine spoils sometimes. Haydock shook his head. This isn't spoilage. This is deliberate. Eyes turned toward Lady Lily Hartley. Whispers ran fast. She argued with him. She had cause. She lifted her chin, her face pale but defiant. I was nowhere near that table. Ask anyone. Slack barked. Your chalk marked the trail already. She snapped back. Chalk isn't poison. Her voice cracked. Her anger mixed with fear. Guests murmured louder. Dolly Bantry clutched her shawl tighter. Her eyes closed. This is ruin. Ruin for my house. Colonel Bantry stood firm. He raised his hand. Silence. We must let the inspector work. Marple stepped closer to Aubrey. She looked at his hand. The tremor grew, fingers twitching on his cuff, a detail others ignored. She spoke softly. Your hand shakes, Mr. Trent. Aubrey forced a laugh. Merely the shock, finding poison inches away. Marple's eyes lingered, not just shock, something deeper. Fear of exposure. Haydock held, the glass steady. Strong dose, it would have killed quickly. Slack turned to Lily again. You had motive, you had quarrel. Lily spread her arms, her voice cut. I was with Mabel the whole time. Ask her. Mabel nodded weakly. Yes, she was near me. Slack growled. Then who placed it here? No one answered. The silence thickened. Reverend Clement cleared his throat. Evil breeds evil. We must find the truth before fear breaks us all. His wife touched his sleeve, her eyes wide, unsettled. Marple bent slightly, fixing her shawl. She felt something brush her foot. Paper, folded tight. It slid from under the chair. She reached down quietly. Her fingers closed around it. She opened it slow. Dark ink scratched across the page. Stop asking. Or else. Her breath caught faintly. She folded it again. She placed it in her bag, her face calm, her mind sharper than ever. Dolly whispered, "What now?" Marple answered low, "Now we know the killer still walks among us." The folded note in Marple's bag carried its threat. Stop asking. Or else. Even the innocent can look guilty. Inspector Slack placed the glove on the table, the brown leather stiff in his hand. He turned toward Colonel Bantry. "Your size, Colonel. Your style. Care to explain?" The room stilled. All eyes turned. Colonel Bantry's jaw tightened. He spoke firmly. "Not mine. I never wore it." Slack smirked. Convenient denial, but this glove was found by the cloakroom near the missing cache. Dolly stepped forward, her voice sharp. "How dare you? My husband is not a thief." Slack raised a brow. "I only state facts. One glove. His size." Colonel Bantry's face hardened. "I was in the ballroom. Ask anyone. I did not leave." Marple sat still, her hands folded. Her eyes moved, but her lips stayed sealed. Reverend Clement shifted uneasily. Slack's gaze moved to him. "And you, Reverend, this slipped from your pocket." He held up the folded prayer note, marked midnight. "Why write such a time? Why carry it tonight?" The Reverend flushed. His wife touched his arm. He stammered softly. "It was a personal reminder. Not for this evening. I never left the hall." Slack pressed harder. "Two men, two signs. Both deny. But the evidence points otherwise." Dolly's cheeks flamed. She faced Slack directly. "You insult my husband. You insult our guest. You insult this house." Her voice trembled with fury. Tears pricked her eyes, but her stance held firm. Colonel Bantry laid a hand on her shoulder. "Enough, Dolly. Anger will not help." His voice steady, but heavy with strain. The Reverend looked down, his fingers clasped tight around his Bible. He said no more. Miss Marple leaned back in her chair. Her eyes moved slowly. The glove, the prayer slip, the accusations, each detail a thread. She noted the Colonel's rigid calm, the Reverend's broken tone, Dolly's fierce defense, and Slack's eager pursuit. Marple's thoughts turned inward. Gloves came in pairs. Notes carried meaning. But sometimes signs were placed, not found. Dolly whispered to Marple, "Say something. Defend them." Marple shook her head gently. "Not yet, my dear. Not yet." The room buzzed with doubt. Guests whispered behind fans, every glance sharp, every suspicion louder. Slack slammed his notebook shut. "One of them lies. I will prove which." Silence followed. The Colonel's face remained set. The Reverend bowed his head. Dolly trembled between them both. Marple's lips curved faintly. Her whisper reached only Dolly. "The lie is not where you think." Marple's quiet words cut through the noise. "The lie is not where you think. Truth hides in reflections." Miss Marple placed the shard on the table. The small piece of glass caught the light. She leaned closer. Her eyes studied the faint outline. Dolly watched with unease. "Just broken glass, Jane. It proves nothing." Marple shook her head. "Broken, yes, but still it speaks." She turned the shard carefully, the image faint but visible. She traced the brooch with her finger. It glimmered on the wrong shoulder. "Strange," she murmured. Dolly frowned. "What do you mean?" Marple picked up the program booklet. Inside, Lady Peyton's portrait, printed, same gown, same brooch, but placed on the other shoulder. She held the shard beside it. "Here is the difference. The image we saw was mirrored." Slack snorted. Mirrored or tampered? Marple's voice stayed calm. Mirrored. The wristwatch proved it, too. Wrong hand, wrong side. Lady Peton gasped. Her face paled. So it was not me. Not truly. Marple nodded. Not you. A reversed image. Deliberate forgery. Dolly exhaled in relief. She touched Lady Peton's hand. Then you are cleared. But her own face remained tight. The shame of scandal still lingered. Mabel Finch peered at the shard, her voice low. Who would reverse a picture, and why? Marple's eyes moved slowly. Across the room. To Aubrey Trent. He stood near the band, his bow still in his hand, his smile faint but uneasy. A bead of sweat marked his brow. Slack followed her gaze. You suggest him? Marple kept her tone even. I suggest knowledge. Reversal is no accident. One must prepare the slide. One must intend deception. Lily Hartley crossed her arms, her eyes locked on Aubrey, her lips curved cold. He always did love control. Aubrey chuckled dryly. You think me the mastermind? Over a picture? Ridiculous. But his laugh rang false. His fingers tightened on the bow. His eyes refused to meet Marple's. Reverend Clement cleared his throat. Forgery is sin, a greater sin if it ruins a life. His wife whispered, and nearly ruined one tonight. Colonel Bantry stepped forward. Why do this, Trent? For music? For mischief? Aubrey waved a hand. He tried to appear calm. A mistake in preparation, nothing more. Marple's voice cut sharp. No mistake. Forged. Planned. The room fell silent. Dolly looked at Aubrey. Her voice cracked. You would disgrace us all for this? Aubrey said nothing. His face drained of color. His poise slipped away. Marple fixed her eyes on him. Her whisper carried clear. Forgery. Aubrey turned pale as Marple's word struck the hall. Forgery. Plots collided. Blood spilled. Miss Marple stood near the table. Her eyes moved from Dolly to Slack. Her voice calm. 2 crimes, Inspector. Not 1. Slack frowned. 2? Marple nodded. Yes, separate. Each hidden behind the other. She pointed first to Lily Hartley. She arranged the theft. The cash box vanished under her hand. Lily gasped, her voice sharp. You cannot prove... Marple interrupted softly. The chalk betrayed you. Chalk on the table. Chalk on the glove. Chalk in your bag. Lily's face hardened. She clenched her jaw. Her silence told enough. Mabel Finch spoke timidly. She was near me all night. Marple shook her head. She left for moments. Enough to slip the key. Enough to take the box. Slack grunted. Then she is our thief. Marple lifted a finger. Thief, yes, but not murderer. Eyes turned now to Aubrey Trent. He smoothed his cuff again, his smile thin. Why me? Marple looked at the shard of slide. You and Crispin Yo planned blackmail. The projection was your scheme. You needed shock. You needed money. Aubrey laughed cold. Absurd. Why involve myself with that fool? Marple's eyes narrowed. Because he had the lantern, because he had the pictures, and because you needed him. Lady Peton shuddered. Her lips whispered faintly. My name. Ruined for their game. Colonel Bantry clenched his fists. He muttered low. Shameful. A scandal crafted for profit. Slack pressed harder. Then why kill Yo? Marple folded her hands. Because Yo turned greedy. He tried to betray his partner. He demanded more. He threatened to expose Aubrey. Haydock nodded slowly. Fits the knot. Left-handed. Trent favors the bow with his left. Lily stared at Aubrey with cold triumph. You always betray, don't you? First me, now him. Aubrey's smile faltered. His hand trembled faintly. He said nothing. Marple continued, her tone even. 2 crimes. Lily stole for herself. Aubrey blackmailed for greed. Yo reached too far, so Aubrey silenced him. Dolly pressed a hand to her eyes. Her voice cracked. All in my house, under my roof. Marple touched her arm gently. Not your shame, Dolly. Theirs. The guests stood silent. Every face uneasy, every whisper gone. Slack shut his notebook, his voice rough. So theft and blackmail crossed, and blood, spilled between them? Marple nodded, her words steady. That is why Yo had to die. Her calm voice settled over the crowd. That is why Yo had to die. The gloves tell the plan. Inspector Slack slammed the table. Enough riddles. We have evidence. It is time for arrests. Miss Marple raised her hand. Patience, Inspector. The trail is not finished. She laid the gloves out. 4 in a row. 2 women's left, 2 men's right. She pointed to one. The chalk-marked glove. This proves Lily's theft. Chalk on her tools. Chalk on the raffle desk. Chalk here as well. Lily's lips pressed tight. Her eyes burned. She did not speak. Her silence gave answer. Marple turned to the second. The brown leather. Rosen stains here. Musicians use rosin. Aubrey's bow hand left this mark. Slack nodded sharply. Then clear enough. She stole. He killed. We arrest both. Colonel Bantry shook his head. Too swift, Inspector. Let her finish. Marple's voice stayed calm. Each glove placed with care. Each a signal, not dropped, staged. Slack frowned. Still, guilt is plain. Marple touched the rosin-stained glove again. It ties him to the knot. Left-handed. Exact Aubrey's face paled. His hand twitched on the bow. He forced a smile. You twist scraps into chains. Reverend Clement lowered his eyes, his voice low. Truth comes in scraps. And still it binds us. Dolly pressed a hand to her chest. Her whisper cracked. My charity turned into ruin, all for their greed. Colonel Bantry placed his hand over hers, his face stern, his voice steady. Justice will return, Dolly. Slack pulled out his notebook. That is enough for me. I will take them now. Marple's tone cut across his words. Not yet. The guests turned, her eyes fixed on the ribbon spool. It rested near the conservatory. She stepped closer. She lifted it gently. She rolled the length between her fingers, her brow furrowed. She looked at Haydock. Doctor, the ribbon on the victim's throat. How long did you say? Haydock thought a moment. 18 inches at least, drawn tight, cut clean. Marple measured the spool with her gaze. This spool was fuller. 18 inches are missing. Slack snapped. So what? Marple turned her eyes to him. That missing piece bound a man's throat. The knot told us left-handed. The spool confirms it. Lily shuddered. Her voice cracked. You see? I took money, yes. But I never touched that ribbon. Aubrey said nothing. His face drained. His hand shook. The smile gone. Dolly whispered to Marple. Is this the end? Marple's tone softened. Almost, my dear. Almost. She held the ribbon spool high. 18 inches gone. The proof no longer hidden. Words confess before lips admit. Lily Hartley broke first. Her voice cracked. Her shoulders shook. I took the money. Gasps. Spread. Mabel clutched her ledger. Dolly gripped the table for balance. Lily sobbed louder. I planned to repay it. Every coin, every note. Slack stepped closer. You admit theft? Lily nodded weakly. Her words stumbled. I had debts. Too many. No one would help me. So I thought, just borrow. Marple's eyes softened. Borrow with silence is still theft, my dear. Lily buried her face in her hands. I never meant to harm anyone, only survive. Aubrey Trent's laughter cut through. It rang sharp, bitter, pathetic. You think your tears excuse you? Lily lifted her head, her eyes red. You ruined me. You whispered to creditors. You took everything. Aubrey's smile dropped. His voice grew harsh. You were weak. I used it, as anyone would. Slack barked. Enough. We speak of murder now. Marple's gaze moved to Aubrey, her voice steady. Crispin, he pressed you too far. Aubrey's hands clenched, his mask cracked. Yes, he grew greedy. He wanted more. He thought he could control me. Gasps again. Lady Peaton pressed her hands to her mouth. Colonel Bantry muttered low, confession plain as daylight. Aubrey slammed his fist on the table. He was nothing, a fool with pictures. He forgot who led. So I silenced him. Lily stared at him with fury. You dragged me into this. You made me help with lies. And when he turned, you killed him. Aubrey glared back. You joined me gladly. You wanted money. You wanted revenge. Her tears flowed again. I wanted hope. But you wanted power. The room thick with whispers. Guests clutched one another. Shocked faces everywhere. Two guilty, not one. Dolly Bantry trembled, her voice weak. All this, in my hall, while I dreamed of charity. Marple touched her sleeve. Not your shame, Dolly. Theirs. Evil feeds on vanity and greed. Slack moved forward. His cuffs gleamed in his hand. His voice cut firm. Confession enough. No more words. Aubrey sneered once more. You think chains frighten me? But his hands trembled, his face pale. Lily sobbed quietly. She whispered, I never wanted death. Slack snapped the cuffs shut. Metal clanged loud in the hall. The sound echoed sharp. Slack's cuffs locked on their wrists. Truth cleanses, but wounds remain. The hall quieted. The struggle ended. Two culprits taken. Yet silence carried shame. Dolly Bantry stood by the table. Her shoulders sagged. Her lips pressed tight. She forced her chin high. Colonel Bantry stayed close. He looked around the room. Faces judged. Whispers still ran. Dolly whispered, They will talk. By morning every house will know. Colonel answered calm. They will know the truth as well. Your name will not be blackened. But Dolly's eyes watered. My charity mocked. My guests scandalized, all beneath this roof. Miss Marple touched her hand gently, her voice quiet. Your roof did not create their greed. You opened your hall in kindness. That is no shame. Dolly nodded faintly. Her lips trembled. You saved me, Jane. You always see what others miss. Colonel straightened, his tone firmer. At least one truth cleared, my name free again. The glove did not bind me. Slack muttered low. Evidence pointed near enough. Colonel's eyes narrowed. And yet false. Never doubt too soon. Reverend Clement stepped forward slowly, his prayer book still in hand, his face pale, his eyes downcast. He spoke softly. Even suspicion leaves scars. My flock will whisper. A note of midnight will not fade quickly. Mrs. Clement touched his sleeve. Your faith stands. They will see that. But his voice held no strength. His silence spoke louder. Dr. Haydock approached Marple, his tone steady, respectful. You saved the case. Your eye sharper than ours. The shard, the gloves, the ribbon. All tied together in your hand. Marple smiled faintly. Details, Doctor. Always details. He nodded. Without you, we would still chase shadows. Lady Peaton rose slowly, her voice low. You restored my name. You gave me dignity back. Tears shone in her eyes. Dolly turned aside, her voice cracked. And yet my dignity feels broken still. Marple answered softly. Truth cleanses. But wounds remain. Time will mend them, Dolly. Colonel Bantry placed his arm around his wife, his face stern, but his words kind. Tonight ends with justice. That is enough for now. Guests shifted uneasily, some ready to leave, some afraid to speak. The night too heavy for more words. Slack closed his notebook, his tone clipped. Charges stand. They will answer before the court. Marple looked at him, her eyes calm, her whisper clear. People lie, but details don't. Marple's words cut sharp in the silence. People lie, but details don't. Scandal fades, truth lingers. The guests were gone. The doors stood closed. The music had stopped. Only silence remained. Dolly Bantry sat near the hearth, her hands folded tight. Her eyes stared at nothing, her face pale with fatigue. Colonel Bantry stood nearby. He watched her quietly, his voice low. "You must rest." Dolly shook her head, her lips pressed firm. My charity, my name, all ruined in a single night. Miss Marple sat across from her. She opened her small bag. She placed the shard, the gloves, the note inside. Her voice, calm. "Not ruined, Dolly. Tested." Dolly looked at her. Her eyes filled. "They will whisper. They will laugh. They will never forget." Marple leaned forward, her voice steady. "Scandal fades, truth lingers, and the truth showed them who sinned, not you." Colonel Bantry nodded firmly. "She is right. Your pride bent, but not broken." Dolly sighed. Her shoulders trembled. "I dreamed of goodwill. Instead, greed walked in. Greed I invited unknowingly." Marple's eyes softened. Evil hides in ordinary faces, even among music and laughter. We must learn that always. Dolly whispered, "And I trusted them." Marple answered, "Trust is never wasted, Dolly. Only misused by the unworthy." Reverend Clement entered briefly. He bowed his head. "My prayers for you both. My shame remains my own." He left without another word. Slack sat at the writing desk, his pen scratched across the page. He noted each crime, theft, blackmail, murder. His report grew long. He closed the book. He spoke flatly. "The rest will be handled by the court." Colonel Bantry poured Dolly a glass of water. She sipped slowly. Her hand still shook, but her eyes steadied. Mabel Finch appeared at the door. She whispered, "I am sorry. I failed to guard the box." Dolly gave her a faint smile. "No, Mabel, the fault lies elsewhere." Mabel left quietly. Dr. Haydock paused on his way out. He looked at Marple. "You see what no one else sees?" Marple gave a faint smile. "Details, Doctor. Always details." The hall emptied further. Only Dolly, Colonel, and Marple remained. The fire burned low. The shame lingered, but softer now. Dolly leaned back, her voice quiet. "I will never forget this night," Marple replied softly. "Nor should you, for memory guards us from folly." Colonel Bantry touched Dolly's hand. "Together we will endure." Her lips trembled, but she nodded. Marple rose at last. She adjusted her shawl. Her eyes swept the silent room. Every shadow, once loud with whispers, now still. Her voice lingered in the hush. And yet, in every hall, another secret waits.